righty, we are live. How's it going, Jim? Welcome back.
Doing good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing really well. Up here in Canada, you're all the way down the beautiful, beautiful Sacramento, California.
I am.
It's been a stunning day today. I've been out and about. Just got back on my scooter. Just been playing tennis. This is the season for me to try and maybe shed some of those extra pounds that I put on thanks to COVID.
Yeah, I hear you there.
That's awesome. So today we're going to talk about what our government's doing right and wrong. And you actually came up with some really cool ideas, and I noticed that you shared. Let me share your the first article or page that you shared with me. I thought was really interesting. If that's okay.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And that is the e-bike act will create vital tax credits for e-bikes. So this is obviously California.
This is put out by California Bike, but my understanding is it is a U.S. federal tax credit.
Oh, okay.
There's some additional tax credits that, like, the state of California is trying to put forth. Oh, no problem. Yeah, and this one's, there's been a lot of channels talking about this particular bike act, and there's some. I don't even know all the particulars of it yet, but it's an interesting tax credit idea. One thing I find really interesting about it is I don't know how Canada is, but in the U.S. there's still a pretty significant tariffs on imports, and far by and away these electric vehicles, bikes, and scooters are coming in from China.
Right.
So this is kind of like maybe counter offsetting the tariff, because this is I think this is 25 or this is 30%. It's tied to the purchase price of the bike. I like the idea of incentivizing people to move into e-bikes. I haven't dug into this enough that I think this is going to be the way for the bulk of people to be able to go. But, it's nice to see things like this happening. What's your take on it?
Well, I think if anything, this is going in the right direction for sure. I mean, anything that would encourage people to actually purchase electric vehicles and things like the electric e-bikes, electric scooters, anything like that, I think is a really good thing to do. The more that we can get people out of being in their cars, but get them safely to their destinations. Most trips, I think you probably know better than me, but most trips are very, very short. Typically people, like in Canada anyway, living in this little town, this little city, it's a beautiful city for going for a walk, but sometimes you need to take a car to get things done. I get that, but for most of the trips that I do in town, especially on a nice day like today, it's about 70 degrees today, or about 20 degrees centigrade. So it's like it's per Celsius. It's pretty mild out there today. Like I get it when it's pouring down with rain. You've got tens of bags of groceries. That's great. Fine, take the car, but for most of the time, I think I can get away without it. What about yourself?
Yeah. Sorry, I actually finally got my thing to go live there, so it took me a second. I got sidetracked. It actually gave me the go live indicator button. So my first successful live broadcast. I got distracted there for a second.
I should check to see if mine went live. Oh yeah, mine went live too. Hey, so if anybody's actually watching, there's a chat button down below. Go ahead and tell me what's happening in your neck of the woods. What's happening, from a legislation or from a legal perspective or an encouraging perspective from the government, and and vice versa. Like on the flip of that, like what are they doing in your neighborhood to screw things up? Because I've got a couple articles here that I've read recently that are kind of disconcerting.
Right. Yeah, and I think it's kind of interesting. When I saw this e-bike tax credit, it kind of made me think of some of those articles you had sent me as well. And it might be a good way to just kind of transition to those, because you have on one side support, where it's like we're trying to get more of these out there, and on the other side, like some of these other articles you're going to share, there's obviously some hesitancy, and some in some cases downright seems like
Stupidity.
just not like it. Yeah, and just like hatred of them. I don't know.
It is odd. I've spoken to and I've seen videos of people with regards to electric cars, and they've received pretty angry experiences while being out and about in their electric cars. And I always think that's really odd. Like, why are you so wrapped up in your vehicle, your ICE, your internal combustion engine vehicle? Like, what difference does it make if somebody else has an electric vehicle?
Right.
I've never heard any strong or logical reasons as to, or just logical reasons as to why people don't like them. And with electric vehicles, like for example, skateboards, scooters, and electric bikes, what difference does it make to somebody if they're pedaling or not pedaling, or if they're pedaling a little bit and they're using a little bit electric, or they're using all electric? What difference does it make to you or me? I think there are too many Karens out in the world. And I think if we genuinely want to move in the direction of a greener world, this totally makes sense. Like, why fire something up that is literally the stuff that comes out of that exhaust will kill you? If you put that exhaust, flip it around, put the hose back in the back seat of your car, and you put the windows up, that's a surefire way to make sure you don't live. So it can't be good for you. And especially in a province where I live, about 94 or 95% of the electricity is generated by hydroelectric. So, water is literally running down through these rivers, generating 95% of the entire province, similar to a state. And it's fantastic. So it means it's really clean for us in British Columbia in particular. But, and to that end, like, let me start off with a positive. How's that?
So, yeah, let's do it.
Alrighty. So let me just pull this one up here.
I just had something fall off my wall, so my studio's in progress.
That's awesome. I like your new studio, by the way. It looks really good. So this is electric scooters could be legal in 6 BC municipalities this summer. So this is a pilot program that has been about sort of encouraging electric scooters on bike paths in 6 different municipalities throughout British Columbia, which again, I think that's fantastic. That's the government trying something out. But sadly, in other provinces, like for example, Ontario, and specifically Toronto, they've actually said no. They've said we're going to keep making electric scooters and electric vehicles of this kind illegal. That is not allowed on the road. So, you've got massive traffic issues. You've got huge, I don't know if you've ever been to Toronto, but Toronto is just nuts for traffic. It's up there with California and specifically the roads in and around LA. It's absolutely crazy. You can literally be in your car for hours every day. So people quite often will commute 90 minutes one way just to get to work. That's just an exorbitant amount of time, in my humble opinion. So anything you could do to get more people out of their cars and into shared transit, buses, rail, and of course bicycles and the like, I think makes a lot of sense. So this is a great little pilot program that's trying out right now. Hopefully, and I'll put the links down below, but hopefully this takes off. And if it does, that would be fantastic. If this then means that amendments are made to the Motor Vehicle Act here in British Columbia that would allow me to ride around on these scooters legally. Right.
Now here's a. Can I ask a dumb American question?
It's okay. Go for it.
So, coach, in the U.S., I'm familiar with the states usually regulate these kind of things differently than federally. They usually don't regulate this stuff. Is it kind of the same way in Canada, where it's provinces are more responsible for this kind of regulation?
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my understanding. And I think, so I think at the end of the day, if we can just get some kind of basic understanding of what you can and can't do. I heard a really interesting analogy from one of the comments on one of the videos that I posted recently, and they said, well, you can buy a Ferrari, and that's it, a nice 12 or 8 cylinder Ferrari that will do 300 kilometers an hour, or a couple hundred miles an hour. We don't regulate how big the engine is. We don't say whether you can buy a Tesla that goes 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. We don't say that's bad. We say go ahead, you can have whatever you like, as long as you don't speed. So I would say the same thing should apply to electric vehicles just generally. Like if I'm on a bike path and they say, the speed limit on a bike path is 25 kilometers an hour, or maybe 32 kilometers an hour, which is 20 miles an hour. Right. I think that's plenty fast enough to be on a bike path. I don't see the issue. So that would be my concern, is that don't tell us how big, because I'm a big guy, right, Jim? And so like for me,
Yeah.
if I get on a little 300-watt scooter, it's not going to get me anywhere. It's really not going to last. It's probably going to break down. But if I get on a nice Wolf Warrior or my Varla, or an X, 010X or something like that size, like a larger scooter, of course it's going to get me there. It's going to get me there more easily. It's going to less wear and tear on the machine. It's going to get me down hills. And then my wife uses the exact same thing. Of course she can go as fast as she wants, but at the end of the day, I think it just comes down to the individual. And I don't think we need to be targeting people because of the size of the engines or the size of the motors on electric vehicles. I think that's the wrong way of looking at it. I think what you need to do is look at it individually and say, hey, you're going like a bat out of hell. Let's just, hand out a speeding ticket. I mean, if I'm doing 75 and a 50, I need a speeding ticket. If I'm doing 50 and a 25, I need a speeding ticket. I don't see how this is any different than cars in that respect. What do you think?
I agree. I think you're onto a really good thing about talking about size of, speed versus size of motor. It's just that you're right. There's too much variability there for different size people. Yeah. And you can be in a perfect situation if you're a couple and one person weighs, typically us men weigh more. So, you can have two people on way different spec scooters, but you're achieving the same basic speed. So I think that's don't limit the folks from that, let them people still need to use their discretion and their mind on making these choices. So I think that's a great point you bring up there.
Another article I'm going to share with you, if that's okay, is
yes, please.
Something from the Daily Mail, my country of origin, so to speak, where a long time ago I was raised in the UK. The Daily Mail here is talking about this new e-scooter crime wave.
This is funny.
Isn't that nuts? So the new e-scooter crime wave, hundreds of crimes, including robberies and assaults, are being committed by thugs on electric scooters, investigations reveal. And this is the reasoning and the rationale in parts of the UK for preventing people from using electric scooters. So because the thugs of the world have figured out that they can go along and snatch purses and do other nefarious things, that means that people who don't break the law can't use them. This is just mind-blowing to me that anybody would think that makes any kind of sense, that we're going to start and some hooligan or there's an unfortunate article here about this young girl who was hurt because she was her fractured skull because she was sent flying by a teenage rider said to be doing about 25 miles an hour on a sidewalk. So you think, well, again, like, that just makes no sense to me. Why are you doing it's 40 kilometers an hour, Jim. That's insane.
Right.
Doing that on a sidewalk where you've got kids running around, that's just nuts. What are you thinking? So not only do we need to make sure that you can use these vehicles, but you need to be able to use them safely. That's safe for the riders and it's safe for pedestrians. If I'm in an area where there are pedestrians, I need to be going a lot slower, especially if I'm a bigger guy. So anyway, I saw this article, and again, I'll put the links down in the show notes afterwards, but this kind of thing is, and they keep saying how they can be modified to go 70 miles an hour and, the top speeds, and they're all shock and awe. But the reality is, when you get on one of these things, most people don't go 70 miles an hour. Most people go like 20.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was something else that I sort of shared. I thought was just kind of crazy. And then the last article I'll just quickly share with you is this article from another Victoria. This is Victoria in Australia, and they're saying in Victoria here that they're going to start taxing electric vehicles as a disincentive to go green.
Right.
Which again is absurd. It's like another, like, what are you thinking? Presumably in Victoria, not Victoria, British Columbia, Victoria, Australia, presumably they don't have more electric vehicles than they do have gas, or
I wouldn't think so.
So why, like, I get the logic. The logic is something like, well, electric vehicles also do wear and tear on the roads, and we need to make sure that we maintain. But
Yeah.
here, Kyle actually just jumped in here. He says, I think any law that's holding PEVs back, let me just see if I can't, he says, yeah, I think any law that's holding PEVs back now will go away in a few years, especially once the kids who grew up riding different electronic devices are old enough to be more involved. I hope you're right, Kyle. But as an early adopter, wouldn't it be great if people just said, this makes a lot of sense. Let's start. I mean, the idea that you would tax electric vehicles before they've taken any kind of hold, that is, until I get it if they're, if there's, I mean, if they're on par with ICE vehicles, if you've got half our ICE vehicles and half are electric, sure, I get it. You need to make sure the infrastructure is paid for, but disincentivizing electric vehicles before they even take. What do you think here on this?
Oh, I think like you're saying, it does on some level make sense. I understand where they're coming from, but on the real level, it doesn't make any sense. So it's like, I see what you're saying. It's a very frustrating thing because there's being an environmental scientist background, there's a lot of stuff that electric vehicles are good for besides just greenhouse gas emissions from the tailpipe versus ICE. Um, you can also have central production of electricity. You have green production of electricity that's refueling those cars, and the idea that you're going to try to make sure we kind of bump that back. Don't let it get too much traction here. Is a kind of a odd way of going.
I remember it wasn't that long ago that, and Kyle should mention something else as well, which I'll bring to in a moment. But
Yeah.
I remember that electric skateboards, like super famous YouTuber Casey Neistat was flying around on this electric skateboard. I just thought this was amazing, right? But they don't ship it to Canada because the Canadian once it hits the border, they said, no, these are illegal. You're not allowed to buy them here. You're not allowed to sell them here. And you're like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, how, this is dinosaur-like. This is just such an old way of thinking. Start thinking about the future. Start thinking about what we can do now. And we don't need more regulations. Kyle said here, I thought it was interesting. He says, I don't like any tax. The amount they tax distributors who sell them pushes people to order directly from China. So I think what he's sharing there is, and I'm sure you've come across this as well, Jim, is people could order, for example, they can order from you because you actually are a distributor for, what brands are you a distributor for?
I'm still a dealer technically for RevRides, Dualtron Mini Motors, and Voro Motors.
Perfect. Okay.
I really only do local stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, but so for example, somebody who's in Sacramento and they wanted to buy a Dualtron X,
Yep.
like they did recently, or X2.
Yeah, right. It was X2, yeah.
The X2 came in, and you were able to set it up for them, make sure they went on their way happily, and they got a really nice ride. But Rev Rides or yourself, you're having to pay taxes. You're getting taxed when they shipped in. They're getting taxed statewide tax. You're getting taxed on your business, and you're getting taxed federally and statewide tax as well. So there are so many levels of taxes to sell one scooter. What he's pointing out is that you can actually literally order from like an Alibaba type place,
right,
and get it shipped directly to you.
You go right around the system. Yep.
Go right around the system and save a lot of money.
Right.
I mean, you're running a risk, I suppose. You don't know who you're dealing with necessarily when you do an Alibaba, but if you've dealt with Alibaba and you've had success, you're probably going to post it in one of the Facebook forums and share everybody else. And
right. Yeah, and from what's the thing I've seen, they're typically the same scooter coming out of the same factory. That's the only thing that's just like you're missing sometimes that support piece. Where if something goes wrong, you might be in this endless chain of emails. But if you're a handy person and DIY and really budget conscious, I see why people go that route.
Yeah, so do I. I think it's so we've got the crimes in we got crimes happening in the UK because some degenerates have figured out that they can run around and do assaults. I'm assuming that the UK has have assaults anyway. They're probably not without assaults. The Australian government and Victoria are deciding that they want to start taxing electric vehicles again, really kind of disincentivizing consumer.
Right.
Here in British Columbia, thankfully, we've got some legislators that are looking at thinking about, at least doing a test pilot run. If they come out of this and they say, hey, these things are great, and we'll put like a speed limit on it, and when you're riding these things on bike paths, but if you're on the road, then you probably need to do something like, I don't know. It'd be good if they suggested wearing a helmet. I'm a big fan of helmets, but that's just because I've seen the damage that could occur to people who don't. I know you guys don't have helmet laws in California. That's right, is it?
Yeah, so the helmet law in California was structured to allow the scooter rental industry to flourish. So it doesn't require helmets just from the fact that they didn't want to limit people riding those. So they actually changed it just to do just for that. Now it is required for, I think, riders under 18.
Oh, okay. So we're gonna save the kids, but everybody else, they're out of here.
Hey,
It's scary. I'm a big fan of helmets. As I said, I've seen some pretty horrific accident happened right in front of me and at a very low speed. So, and if he hadn't been wearing that helmet, it would have been a disaster. Anything else you wanted to share with us now that we've got together here?
There's maybe it's too, I don't know if it's too hard to pull up, but if you go to Unagi Scooters, they did a really good job summarizing the different state by state rules for scooters in the U.S. They just, I can't remember exactly where to get. I think there might be a resources tab in there. But if somebody's looking for some guidance on your different states' rules in the U.S., that's a pretty good spot to go. They did a good job putting that together.
Let's see if I can pull this one up really fast. Let's see here. So I'm on their website here, and was this at the end of news, do you think?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's down there, maybe a couple blog posts down. Maybe not. I should have sent you the link. I just popped in my. Oh, there you go. No, that's not it.
Okay.
That wasn't it. But anyway, if somebody's willing to click around there in the website, it's in there, and it's pretty. They even have something about Canada.
I did not see this. That's really interesting. That's awesome. I hadn't seen this. I mean, so do you need a driver's license to ride an electric scooter in Canada? Not yet. You're not allowed to ride a scooter in Canada yet in most places. Anyway,
there's some states here are starting to require that a driver's license.
But again, right? You're 16. You're trying to get to school.
I know.
It's post-COVID. Everybody's been telling you that there must be another outbreak. Trying to get to a university or trying to get to school, high school, what have you. You got yourself a nice little 600-watt scooter, and you can take the bike path to school, and it's nice and safe. It's not raining. Like, why are we using? Instead you're going to harass mom and dad to drive you, or you're going to, carpool with something like. I don't know. To me, it just makes an awful lot of sense to let, especially 16, 17, 18. These things would be perfect, wouldn't they?
Oh yeah, yeah. Just it's cheap form of transportation. It's it's doing what the intent is to do with electric vehicles is to make everything a little cleaner, make everything a little quieter.
Yeah,
and that's another. Yeah.
Well, Jim, thank you very much for hopping on the call today, sharing.
Oh yeah.
And did have some technical difficulties at the beginning, but we're getting through it. We're trying. We're going to get better at this, right?
I'm live now, so I've made a quantum leap.
Perfect. So
I did lose another panel on the wall.
What did you do? Stick it up with like a little
command strips. Oh, not sponsored. Command strips are not a sponsor. All right.
That's awesome. Yeah, just keep sticking them up.
Oh man,
great design element there. The little work on that's hilarious. If you are watching and you thought this was of any value whatsoever, give us a thumbs up. If you thought it was awful, go ahead, give us a thumbs down.
We can handle it.
We can handle it. I know Jim can. I'm a little bit. I get a little bit spicy in my comments. I do respond to every single comment that you put in my any reasonable comments. I do respond to. I've had to delete one or two, but that's about it. I'm actually quite encouraged by the kindness of some of the comments that I get. If you are watching Jim for the first time, make sure you pop over to his channel and subscribe. And if you're on Jim's channel, head over and subscribe to my channel. We're both doing reviews. He's a great guy down in California. I'm an okay guy up here in beautiful Canada. And thank you very much for watching.
Yeah, thanks a lot, everybody.
Take care, and I will end the stream now. Take care.
All right. Take it
Wear
easy.
a helmet. Cheers.
Definitely.